They say 7 years is how long it takes for every cell in your body to replace itself. If that's true, then I should be completely new. A stranger to the girl who first fell for Alex Morgan under the bleachers at the homecoming game our sophomore year. But as I sit here watching him twirl a new girl on the dance floor at our mutual friend's wedding, I feel every single one of those 2,557 days like fresh bruises. Her name is Skylar. She's a dancer or a yoga instructor or maybe a part-time mermaid. Something fluid and graceful that I could never be. She laughs at something he whispers in her ear and the sound is like wind chimes. Alex's hand rests on the small of her back with a casual possession that makes my stomach twist. This is year 7. Beside me, my friend Chloe sips her champagne and follows my gaze. You're doing it again. Doing what? That thing where you mentally compose sonnets about the way he holds a beer bottle. He touches my arm. Sophia, he's not worth it. He's never been worth it. I know this. Intellectually, I have known this since year 3 when he dated my roommate for 6 months and I had to listen to them through the wall. Since year 5, when he forgot my birthday but remembered to text me at 2 a.m. when his girlfriend dumped him. Since last month when he told me, again, that we were better off as friends. I'm done, I say, and the words taste different this time. Not like bitter resignation but like a key turning in a lock. Chloe raises an eyebrow. Hey, what's different? I watch as Alex leans in to kiss Skylar's neck, his eyes closed in a moment of pure absorption. He's beautiful. He's always been beautiful. That golden boy, all-American beauty that seems to catch the light even in dark rooms. But for the first time, looking at him doesn't feel like looking at the sun. It just feels like looking at a very handsome man who will never love me. I'm tired, I say simply. I'm 24 years old and I've spent nearly a third of my life loving someone who sees me as furniture. Chloe's expression softens. Oh, honey. The DJ switches to a slow song. Alex pulls Skylar close, her head resting on his shoulder. I remember the one time we danced at our senior prom. He was my backup date, after my actual date got food poisoning. He'd been gentle, his hand warm on my back, but his eyes kept tracking his ex-girlfriend across the room. Come on, Chloe says, standing. Let's get another drink. Or better yet, let's find you someone to make out with in the parking lot. I let her pull me up. As we weave through the crowd, I pass close enough to the dance floor that Alex notices me. He gives me that smile, the one that used to make my knees weak. The hey buddy smile. Soph, he calls over Skylar's head. You leaving? Just getting air, I say, and my voice doesn't wobble. Skylar looks at me with the polite disinterest of someone who knows she's won a prize no one else could claim. I feel a sudden, unexpected surge of pity for her. She doesn't know she's just the latest in a long line. She thinks she's special. Out on the venue's terrace, the October air is crisp and smells of dying leaves and distant wood smoke. I lean against the stone railing, breathing deeply. You okay? I turn to see Ben Collins leaning against the doorway. Ben, Alex's best friend since childhood, the quiet counterpoint to Alex's loud sunshine. Where Alex is golden, Ben is silver. Sharp angles, dark hair, watchful gray eyes. We've known each other almost as long as I've known Alex, but we've never really talked. He's always been part of the background, a silent observer. I'm fine, I say automatically. He comes to stand beside me, not too close. He lights a cigarette, a habit I thought he'd quit years ago. The match flared, illuminating the stark planes of his face for a moment. He's an idiot. The directness surprises me. Who? Ben just looks at me, one eyebrow raised. I say, is it that obvious? Only to everyone. He takes a drag, exhales smoke into the night. For what it's worth, I think you're wasting your time. A laugh escapes me, sharp and humorless. Yeah. I'm starting to get that memo. He doesn't deserve you, Ben says, and his voice is so quiet I almost don't hear it. Before I can respond, the terrace door bangs open. Alex strides out, Skylar clinging to his hand like accessory. There you are. We're doing shots. Collins, put that cancer stick out and come be social. Ben drops the cigarette and grinds it under his heel without taking his eyes off me. Coming. Alex slings an arm around my shoulders, pulling me against his side. He smells like whiskey and expensive cologne. You're not hiding out here, are you? My girl Sophia doesn't hide. Your girl. The words that used to send thrills through me now just feel patronizing. I was just getting some air, I repeat. Skylar gives a little shiver. It's cold out here. Let's go back in, baby. Baby. I've never called him that. I've never called him anything but Alex. As we head back inside, Alex keeps his arm around me. Over my head, I catch Ben watching us, his expression unreadable. The crash happens 2 weeks later. I'm at Alex's apartment, a place I know as well as my own, helping him pack for a job interview in Chicago. Skylar is there too, folding his shirts with a proprietary air. So you'll be gone like a week? She's asking, her lower lip pushed out in a pout. 3 days max, Alex says, grinning at her. You'll survive. You'd better text me every hour. Every minute, he promises and kisses her. I focus on rolling his socks, feeling like an intruder in a scene I've auditioned for 100 times but never gotten to perform. My phone buzzes. It's a text from my mom. Don't forget Aunt Maria's birthday dinner tonight. 7 p.m. sharp. I swear under my breath. In my Alex-focused haze, I'd completely forgotten. Everything okay? Alex asks. It's my aunt's birthday dinner. I'm supposed to be there in an hour. He checks his watch. You've got time. Hey, can you grab my gray suit from the dry cleaners on your way home? It should be ready by now. It's not a question. It's an assumption. One I've fulfilled countless times. Skylar makes a little noise. I can get it, Alex. I don't mind. No, Sophia's got it, he says easily. She always knows exactly how I like things. Something in me snaps. It's not loud or dramatic. It's a quiet, final sound like the last page of a book being turned. I set the sock I'm holding down on the bed. Very carefully. Actually, I say, I can't. Both of them look at me. Alex's expression is puzzled, like I've just spoken in a foreign language. What do you mean? He asks. I mean I can't pick up your suit. I'm going to my aunt's birthday dinner. I pick up my purse. And actually I should get going now. Traffic on the bridge will be terrible. Alex stands up, his charming confusion giving way to something like annoyance. Soph, come on. It's on your way. Is it? I ask calmly. My aunt lives in Queens. Your dry cleaner is in the opposite direction. He blinks. I've never pointed out the inconvenience before. I've never pointed out any of the inconveniences. I'll get it tomorrow, he says, but it's not the point. No, I say gently. You'll get it or Skylar will get it. Or it'll stay at the dry cleaner. But I won't be getting it. The room is very quiet. Skylar looks between us, sensing a shift in dynamics she doesn't understand. Alex runs a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I know well. Hey, fine. Whatever. Is something wrong? You've been weird lately. Have I? I smile and it feels genuine for the first time in weeks. I don't think so. I think I've been exactly the same. I'm just not going to be that person anymore. What person? The person who drops everything for you. The person who remembers your dry cleaning and your mother's birthday and what kind of coffee you like. The person who's always waiting. His face goes through a series of adjustments. Confusion, defensiveness, and finally, a dawning realization that he might actually be losing something. Not me, not really, but the service I provided. The certainty of my devotion. Sophia. He starts, his tone shifting to that soft, coaxing one that always worked before. I have to go, I say, cutting him off. Good luck in Chicago. I don't look back as I leave. My hands are shaking as I wait for the elevator, but my mind is clearer than it's been in years. The elevator dings open and Ben Collins steps out. He's holding a 6-pack of beer and a bag of takeout. We stare at each other for a beat. Leaving so soon? He asks. Long overdue, I say, stepping past him into the elevator. As the doors close, I see him still standing there, watching me with that same unreadable expression. The dinner with my family is loud and warm and blessedly normal. My cousin Marco brings his new baby, and we all pass her around like a cherished parcel. My aunt blows out her candles and makes a wish she won't tell anyone. My mother squeezes my shoulder and asks, "How's Alex?" And for the first time in 7 years I say, "I don't know," and mean it. That night, in my own bed in my own apartment, I lie awake staring at the ceiling. My phone lights up with a text at 11:47 p.m. Alex, hey. About earlier. I didn't mean to be a dick. You know I appreciate everything you do. I watch the screen until it goes dark. Alex, Chicago's cold. Wish you were here to complain about it with me. Another message 5 minutes later. Alex, Skylar and I got in a fight. She doesn't get me like you do. The old Sophia would have answered immediately. Would have offered comfort, advice, a listening ear. Would have tucked those words, like you do, away like precious stones. The new Sophia puts her phone on silent, turns over and goes to sleep. The silence I offered Alex was met, predictably, with confusion that curdled into irritation. The first week after Chicago, my phone was a battleground of his escalating messages. Alex, okay, seriously, are you mad at me? Alex, this isn't like you. Alex, Skylar's being dramatic. Called me emotionally unavailable. Can you believe that? Alex, fine. Be that way. By the second week, the messages slowed to a trickle. Mutual friends reported he was in a mood, and Skylar was history. A part of me, the old, worn-out part, felt a familiar tug of sympathy. The greater part felt nothing but a vast, quiet relief. It was Chloe who orchestrated the intervention disguised as a night out. You said you were done, she declared, standing in my bedroom as I stared blankly at my closet. Prove it. Let's go be single and spectacular. The venue was a pulsing, neon-lit club downtown, the kind of place Alex would have hated for its try-hard vibe. Chloe stuffed me into a little black dress I didn't remember owning. It's mine, she shouted over the pre-game music blasting from her phone. And tonight's or you. No moping. Only moving on. Moving on, in Chloe's dictionary, involved tequila shots and the center of the dance floor. I was tipsy, the music a physical thrum in my chest, when she commandeered my phone. Smile, she ordered, and I laughed, a real laugh, head thrown back, hair swinging. She took a rapid-fire series of photos and, before I could protest, posted the best one to her Instagram stories with a caption. Sophia 2.0 is officially upgraded and on the market. Inquiries handled by her manager, me. Chloe, no. I gasped, lunging for the phone, but she danced away, cackling. It's happening. Look. She pointed to her screen, which was already lighting up with likes and comments. My stomach did a nervous flip. This was broadcasting. This was visible. Alex would see it. Strangely, the thought didn't bring the usual pang of anxiety. It brought a spark of defiance. Let him see. I lost myself in the music after that, the alcohol and the beat working together to dissolve the last of my tension. I was just Sophia, a girl dancing on a Thursday night, not a monument to unrequited love. I didn't see him arrive. I first noticed a ripple through the crowd around me, a collective intake of breath. Then a tall, dark form was cutting through the dancers with a purpose that parted the sea of bodies. Even in the chaotic, strobing lights, I knew that purposeful stride, the set of those broad shoulders. Ben Collins. He wasn't dressed for the club. He wore dark trousers and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the top button undone. He looked like he'd come straight from a boardroom or a very serious art gallery. He looked wildly, dangerously out of place, and every eye in the vicinity was on him. He stopped directly in front of me. The music was too loud for speech, but he didn't need to speak. His gray eyes were a shock of intensity in the shifting darkness, taking me in. The dress, the flushed skin, the unguarded surprise on my face. Ben. I mouthed. He didn't smile. He reached out, his hand closing around my wrist. His touch was firm, warm, electric. He simply turned and began pulling me off the dance floor. I threw a helpless look over my shoulder at Chloe, who stood frozen, her mouth a perfect O of shock. He didn't stop until we were in a dim, blessedly quiet hallway lined with restrooms and a fire exit. The bass from the main room was a distant throb here. He finally released my wrist and I stumbled back a step, my back meeting the cool wall. What are you doing here? I demanded, my voice breathless from dancing and surprise. What are you doing here? He countered, his voice low and rough. He braced a hand on the wall near my head, leaning in. He smelled like cold night air and clean, spicy soap. Nothing like the sticky sweet atmosphere of the club. I'm out with my friend, I said, lifting my chin. It's a free country. Dressed like that. His gaze swept down me and I felt it like a physical touch. What's wrong with how I'm dressed? Nothing. The word was clipped. That's the problem. This place is full of sharks, Sophia. You're practically chumming the water. I barked a laugh. Wow, that's a flattering metaphor. Thank you for your concern, Officer Collins, but I'm a big girl. Are you? He searched my face, his expression unreadable. Because from where I was standing, It looked like you were trying to forget someone by throwing yourself at the first available distraction. His words hit their mark with painful accuracy. My bravado faltered. What do you care? For a long moment he just looked at me. The noise from the club seemed to fade further. I could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, the pulse beating steadily in his throat. His gaze dropped to my lips. Then he said the last thing I ever expected. If you're in the market for a distraction, he murmured, his voice dropping even lower, a vibration I felt in my bones, why would you choose a stranger? My breath caught. What? His free hand came up, his fingers brushing a stray strand of hair from my cheek. The touch was startling in its gentleness. You know me. I know you. Seems like a safer bet than whatever's lurking out there. The logic filtered through tequila and the surreal reality of Ben Collins cornering me in a nightclub was bizarrely compelling. He was right. I did know him. He was Alex's steady, silent shadow. The responsible one. The one who never laughed too loud or promised too much. Are you offering? The question came out in a whisper. The ghost of a smile touched his lips, but his eyes remained serious, intense. I'm saying if you want to try moving on, try it with someone who won't treat you like an option. Before I could process that, before I could remind myself that this was Ben, he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't tentative. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. A firm, confident press of his lips against mine that stole the air from my lungs. One of his hands cupped the back of my head, fingers tangling in my hair, while the other remained braced against the wall, caging me in. The taste of him was clean and sharp, a contrast to the sugary cocktail on my tongue. A shockwave of pure sensation obliterated every thought in my head except one. Ben Collins is kissing me. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing raggedly. His eyes were dark, the gray almost black. So, he said, his thumb stroking my jaw. Do you want to try? My brain, still scrambling, latched onto the most immediate concern. You and Alex, you're best friends. A shadow crossed his face. And this is a betrayal. Is it? He tilted his head. Has he ever staked a claim? Ever told anyone you were his? Or has he just happily accepted everything you gave while giving nothing back? Each word was a precise, surgical cut, severing the last fragile threads of my old loyalty. He was right. Alex had never claimed me. He'd only ever consumed me. Ben saw the shift in my expression. His gaze softened just a fraction. Sophia. We're not strangers. That's better than picking some random guy, isn't it? The alcohol sang in my veins, agreeing with him. Why navigate the unknown when the known, this surprising, intense version of Ben, was right here? It felt reckless, insane, and terrifyingly right. I looked up at him, at this man I'd known for years and suddenly didn't know at all. Okay, I heard myself say. Let's try. The smile that broke across his face then was transformative. It wasn't Alex's bright, dazzling sunbeam. It was slower, deeper, like dawn breaking over a gray sea. It reached his eyes, crinkling the corners, and for a second he looked younger, lighter. I'll do my best, he murmured, dipping his head to kiss me again, softer this time. Guarantee satisfaction. He drove me home in a car that was sleek, quiet, and smelled like him. We didn't speak much. My hand was in his, resting on the center console, his thumb making slow circles on my skin. It was a simple touch that felt more intimate than any of Alex's casual hugs. At my building, he walked me to the door. He didn't try to come up. He just took my face in his hands, kissed me once more, a slow, thorough kiss that promised more than it took, and said, "Get some sleep, Sophia. I'll call you tomorrow." I floated upstairs in a daze. The world had tilted on its axis. For 7 years, my universe had revolved around Alex Morgan. In one night, Ben Collins had quietly, firmly shifted the gravitational center. My phone, charging on my nightstand, buzzed incessantly. Ignoring it, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. The news of my 2 failed pre-Ben blind dates somehow reached Alex. Chloe reported it with glee. He heard about it at poker night. Apparently, he got all sulky and said, "She's so stubborn. She'll come around." But I didn't come around. A month passed. Ben and I had settled into a rhythm that felt both exhilarating and comfortingly steady. We'd had 4 official dates. Each one revealed another layer of the man behind the silent observation. He was fiercely intelligent, dryly funny, and possessed a quiet, unwavering focus that made me feel like I was the only person in any room we occupied. It was after our fourth date that the call came. I was at Ben's apartment for the first time, a minimalist, elegant space in a converted warehouse with stunning river views. We were on his sofa, limbs tangled, in the middle of a debate about the best pizza in the city when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but it was a local area code. I answered. "Hello. Sophia? It's John. From Alex's group." John's voice was strained. "John, hey. What's up?" "It's Alex's mom. She's in the hospital. She tried to hurt herself, Sophia. It's bad." The world dropped out from under me. Alex's mom, Eleanor. She'd lost her older son, Alex's brother Mark, in a car accident when we were in high school. Jasper had been my friend, my protector. His death had shattered their family. I'd spent countless afternoons in their kitchen, letting Eleanor fuss over me, a substitute for the daughter she never had. "Is she?" "She's stable. They got to her in time. But Alex is a mess. We're all at mercy, General. Can you come?" "I'm on my way." I was already standing, my hand trembling. Ben stood too, his expression immediately concerned. "What happened?" "It's Alex's mom. It's an emergency. I have to go to the hospital." I saw the flicker in his eyes, the mention of Alex's name, the immediate urgency in my voice. But he simply nodded. "Of course. I'll drive you." "No, it's okay, I'll just grab a cab." "Sophia." His voice was firm. "It's late. I'm driving you." In the car, I explained about Eleanor, about Mark, about the lingering grief that had never left their family. Ben listened silently, his jaw tight. At the hospital, the scene was a familiar heartbreak. Our whole group was there, huddled in the harsh fluorescent light of the waiting room. And there, in the middle of it, was Alex. He looked wrecked. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hair a mess. When he saw me, something in his face crumpled with relief. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into a hug so tight it knocked the air from my lungs. "You came," he whispered into my hair, his voice choked. "I knew you'd come." Over his shoulder, I saw Ben stop at the entrance to the waiting room. He met my gaze, his expression carefully neutral, then gave me a small nod and stepped back into the hallway to give us space. I gently extricated myself from Alex. "How is she?" "Sedated. But she's okay. She asked for you." He ran a hand over his face. "God, Sophia, it was so close." I stayed for hours. I went in to see Eleanor when she woke, holding her frail hand while she cried, her eyes seeing both me and the ghost of her lost son. Alex was constantly at my side, his hand on my back, my shoulder, as if anchoring himself to me. At one point he leaned close. "Auntie was asking when we're getting married," he said, forcing a weak smile. "Told her we'd make sure she got the first invitation." The old script. The comfortable lie to make a sick woman happy. I opened my mouth to correct him, to say we weren't together, but Eleanor's eyes filled with such pained hope that the words died on my tongue. I just squeezed her hand. It was past midnight when things calmed down. As I was finally gathering my things to leave, Alex followed me to the elevator. "I'll drive you home," he said. "It's okay. I have a ride." He frowned. "Who? Chloe?" "No," I took a breath. "My boyfriend." The word felt new and strange in my mouth, but also right. Alex's face went perfectly blank for 3 full seconds. "Boyfriend," he repeated flatly. "Since when?" "A few weeks." "Who is it?" "You don't know him." The lie came automatically, a protective instinct for Ben, for this fragile new thing between us. The elevator dinged open. Ben was standing in the lobby, leaning against a pillar, waiting. He'd stayed. All this time he'd stayed. Alex's eyes snapped from me to Ben, and the confusion on his face sharpened into something ugly and understanding. "Him." Alex's voice was low, disbelieving. "Ben." Ben pushed off the pillar and walked toward us, his eyes on me. "You ready?" Alex let out a harsh, humorless laugh. "Wow. This is a twist." He looked at Ben with a mixture of betrayal and contempt. "You move fast, Collins. Real classy." Ben didn't rise to the bait. He just held out his hand to me. "Sophia." I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and solid. I looked at Alex, at the hurt and anger warring in his familiar face. "Take care of your mom, Alex." I walked away with Ben, feeling Alex's stare burning into my back all the way to the door. The night air was cold and clean. Ben didn't speak until we were in the car. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded, tears finally spilling over. "It's just so sad. All of it." He reached over and wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. "I know." He started the car. "Let's get you home." But he didn't drive to my apartment. He drove to his. He led me inside, poured me a glass of water, and simply held me on the couch as I finally let the evening's emotional torrent out. He didn't ask for explanations. He didn't mention Alex. He just offered a silent, steady comfort that felt like a sanctuary. Later, as I drifted to sleep in his bed, his arm a heavy, comforting weight across my waist, I heard him whisper into the dark, so softly I might have dreamed it. "This time I'm not letting go." The world became two separate orbits after that night at the hospital. In one, I moved through my life with Ben. A life of quiet dinners, intense conversations that lasted for hours, and a growing, profound intimacy that felt less like falling and more like coming home. In the other orbit, Alex spun in erratic, widening circles. Texts came in the dead of night, full of a maudlin self-pity that felt more performative than real. "You were always the one person who understood this family drama. Now even you've bailed." I stopped replying. Ben never asked about the texts, but I saw him notice the flash of my screen in the dark. A new tension lived in his shoulders, a watchfulness behind his eyes. He was giving me space to untangle myself, but the cost of that patience was etched on him. One afternoon, a text from Alex broke through my self-imposed radio silence. It was a photo. The little ceramic figurine of a clumsy, smiling girl holding a jar. A gift I'd given him in a fit of hopeful sentimentality during our brief, disastrous attempt at dating 2 years prior. I'd carved Sophia on the base. "Alex, found your thing. Come get it." I stared at the photo. The figurine looked absurdly cheerful sitting on his messy dresser. I'd asked for it back once after our final just friends conversation. He'd said he'd thrown it out. "You can keep it. Or throw it out." "I don't need it." "Alex, then I'll trash it." The finality of it should have hurt. It only felt like pulling a splinter. As I set the phone down, Ben's call came through, a welcome lifeline to the present. "Dinner tonight," he said, his voice a warm rumble in my ear. "Your choice. Anything you want." "Anything? You'll regret that." "I want barbecue and that fancy Italian place's truffle pasta." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Then we'll have both. You could use the calories." "Ben Collins, are you calling me skinny?" "I'm calling you perfect. But you were a little softer in high school." It was cute. A laugh bubbled out of me, bright and surprised. "That was baby fat." "I know." His tone softened. "See you at 7, Sophia." But 7 o'clock found me not at a restaurant, but staring at the stark white door of Alex's apartment. John had called an hour before, his voice ragged. "It's Alex. Not good. He's talking crazy, Sophia. About the past, about his brother, about you. I'm worried. Can you just talk to him?" The old programming, the deep-seated sense of responsibility for his well-being, activated like a faulty alarm. I told myself it was for Mark's memory, for Eleanor. I told myself it was the last time. I knocked. The door swung open, not to Alex's grief-stricken face, but to a scene of startling normalcy. The apartment was clean. Indie rock played softly. And Alex stood by the sofa looking not shattered but frustrated. A pretty blonde woman I didn't know was curled in an armchair, a book in her lap. "Sophia," Alex said, surprise flickering in his eyes before they shuttered. "Hey. John called me. He said you were in a bad way." Alex had the decency to look slightly ashamed. He ran a hand through his hair. "John overreacts. I was in a mood earlier." "I'm fine." He gestured to the woman. "This is Leah. Leah, this is Sophia, my old friend." The word friend had never felt so much like a slap. Leah offered a small, polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. I was an intrusion, a piece of a past she'd rather not see. "Right," I said, my voice flat. "Well, since you're fine, I'll go." "Wait." Alex stepped forward. "Since you're here, that figurine, do you still want it? It's in the bedroom." "Yes." A power play. See if I'd follow him into his bedroom with his new girlfriend 10 feet away. See if I was still that girl. "No," I said, turning to leave. I told you. Throw it away. Sophia. His voice stopped me at the door. It had lost its casual edge, dipped into something raw. I didn't turn. You're really doing this? With Ben? I finally looked back at him. He was studying me, a confused anger in his gaze as if I'd swapped out my parts for ones he didn't recognize. Yes, Alex. I am. I walked out, my heart hammering not with hurt but with a clean, sharp fury. I called Ben the second I was in the elevator. Change of plans, I said, my voice shaking. Can you meet me at my place? Now. I'm already here, he said, calm as ever. I'll be waiting. He was. He took one look at my face, pulled me inside and wrapped me in a hug so encompassing it squeezed the anger out of me, leaving only a weary trembling. I didn't have to explain. He just knew. I went to see Alex, I mumbled into his chest. I figured. He has a new girlfriend. He's fine. He was just trying to see if he could still make me jump. Ben's arms tightened. And did you? I leaned back to look at him. I walked away. The smile he gave me then was slow and full of a fierce pride. He kissed my forehead. Good. That night, with Ben asleep beside me, the past decided to haunt me in a different way. I slipped out of bed and went to my closet, pulling a dusty box off the top shelf. My high school memory box. I sat on the floor in a pool of moonlight and began to sift through the artifacts. Playbills, dried corsages, silly notes passed in class. And photographs. Dozens of them. There I was, round-faced and bespectacled, always slightly to the side of Alex, who was always at the center, radiant. Our group. Alex, John, Chloe, me, and Ben. Ben was always on the edge of the frame, often looking not at the camera but somewhere just beyond it. In one photo from a football game he was a blur of motion passing behind me, a slice of focused intensity caught by accident. I traced his blurred face with my finger. I had shared hundreds of moments with him and remembered almost none. He had been scenery. I dug deeper, past the happy nostalgia to the layer beneath. The memorial program for Mark Morgan. A local newspaper article about the accident. And then the thing I was subconsciously searching for. A yellowed article about the miracle survivors of the Riverside High earthquake. It was the big community tragedy of our sophomore year. A 5.8 magnitude quake during school hours. A wall in the old science wing had collapsed. I had been in that wing. The memories were foggy, blotted out by trauma and time. I remembered the terrifying roar, the world tilting, the choking dust. I remembered being trapped, my leg pinned under something heavy and cold. I remembered the darkness, the pain, the thirst. And I remembered a hand. A hand gripping mine in the blackness. A voice, hoarse with dust, talking to me for what felt like an eternity, telling me to hold on, to stay awake, reciting stupid baseball stats and song lyrics. I remembered that voice as my anchor to life. When the rescuers finally pulled me out, blinking into the blinding emergency lights, the hand was gone. The voice was gone. I was loaded onto a stretcher. The next clear memory I had was of a hospital room, and Alex slumped in a chair beside my bed, his clothes dirty, his eyes red-rimmed. He'd looked up when I stirred and given me that world-changing, exhausted smile. "Hey you," he'd croaked. "Don't ever scare me like that again." I had reached for his hand. He'd taken it. And in my traumatized, grateful mind, the voice in the darkness, the hand in the rubble, it had fused with the boy at my bedside. Alex had saved me. Alex had held on to me. It was the bedrock upon which I built 7 years of devotion. Sitting on my bedroom floor, the article in my lap, a cold suspicion began to crystallize. The article listed the injured. My name. Mark Morgan's name. And near the bottom, Benjamin Collins, concussion and lacerations, transported to County General. Ben had been injured. Seriously enough to be transported. Not treated at the makeshift triage at the school. A timeline, fuzzy and dreadful, started to form in my mind. If Ben was hurt, if he was taken away, he couldn't have been at my bedside later. But Alex could have been. "What are you doing?" Ben's quiet voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the faint light from the hallway. His eyes went from my face to the open memory box, to the article in my hands. His expression grew very still. "I couldn't sleep," I said, my throat tight. "I was looking at old pictures." He walked over and knelt beside me. He didn't touch the box. He looked at the photo on top, the one where he was a blur. I remember this day, he said softly. You were wearing a blue sweater. You had paint in your hair from art class. The specificity stunned me. You remember that? I remember everything about you, Sophia. His gaze was heavy, full of an old, guarded pain. He reached past me and gently closed the lid of the box. The past is a ghost. It can't hold you unless you invite it in. Then, I started the question about the earthquake, about the hand in the dark trembling on my lips. He must have seen it in my eyes. He cupped my face, his thumb stroking my cheek. Don't, he whispered, his voice raw. Don't go digging for ghosts tonight. Just be here. With me. He kissed me, and it was a kiss meant to silence, to anchor, to claim. It was filled with a desperate kind of love that felt older than the few weeks we'd officially been together. A love that had been waiting in the wings for years. I let him lead me back to bed. I let him pull me against his chest, his heartbeat a steady drum against my back. But as I lay there in the dark, the ghost was already in the room. And its name wasn't Alex. The next few days I moved through a haze. Ben was tender, attentive, but the watchfulness in him had deepened. He was waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a rainy Thursday. I was meeting Chloe for coffee when my phone rang. An unknown number with a Chicago area code. Sophia Russo? A woman's professional voice asked. Yes. This is Dr. Evans from County General's Records Department. You filed a request for your treatment records from the Riverside High earthquake incident. I had an impulsive, secretive online form filled out at 2 a.m. a few nights prior. Yes. That's me. I'm calling because there's an anomaly. Your patient chart from that day has a continuity note attached from a first responder. It states you were extracted from the rubble with another individual still physically in contact with you. A male student. The note was initialed by the EMT, but the name of the student was logged separately and, while there appears to have been a clerical error during the chaos, the name field is smudged, almost illegible. We can't release the record with a potential HIPAA violation for another patient. I'm sorry. My hand was slick on the phone. The note, what did it say? Exactly. I heard papers shuffling. It reads, Patient Russo 16F, extracted from Section C. Conscious but disoriented. Found in continuous hand contact with male student, approximate 17. Male student pried from rubble first, suffered head trauma, unresponsive at extraction. Rushed to Trauma 1. Russo separated and taken to Triage 2. Patient repeatedly asked for him, but could not provide name. The world tilted. Not a hallucination. Not a dream. A real hand. A real boy. A boy who was pried from me. The male student, I whispered. What was his outcome? I can't give you that information. I'm sorry. She sounded genuinely sympathetic. Is there anything else I can help you with? No. Thank you. I hung up and stared at the rain streaking the cafe window. The pieces clicked into place with a sound that was almost audible. The concussion. The transportation. Ben's old, guarded pain. His cryptic words. The past is a ghost. And Alex. Alex, who had been at the school, who was unharmed. Alex, who could have easily followed the ambulance to the hospital. Alex, who had been there when I woke up, smiling his weary smile, ready to accept a hero's crown he hadn't earned. A white-hot rage, purer and more violent than any I'd ever felt for him, ignited in my chest. It wasn't just that he'd let me love him for a lie. It was that he'd stolen something sacred, a moment of profound life-saving connection, from both me and from Ben. I stood up so fast my chair screeched. Chloe jumped. Soph? What's wrong? You're white as a sheet. I have to go, I said, my voice strangely calm. I have to go see Alex. The rain matched my internal storm, a cold, driving pour that blurred the city into gray watercolors. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just got in a cab and gave Alex's address, my body humming with a dangerous, static energy. He answered the door in sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, holding a bowl of cereal. Leah was nowhere in sight. Surprise, then a flicker of smug satisfaction crossed his face. He'd been expecting a version of this. My return, my surrender. He stepped back to let me in. Look who came crawling, he began, his tone light, teasing. I didn't move from the hallway. It was you at my hospital bed, I said, my voice flat, cutting through his performance. After the earthquake. The spoon in his hand froze midway to his mouth. The smugness drained away, replaced by a wariness. What? You were there when I woke up. You took my hand. You let me think it was you. He set the bowl down on a side table with a clatter. Sophia, what the hell are you talking about? Of course I was there. You were my friend. I was worried. No, I took a step forward, forcing him to look down at me. I was shaking, but not from fear. From the sheer tectonic force of the truth. I'm not talking about visiting. I'm talking about the rubble. The hand holding mine in the dark for 2 days. The voice that kept me from losing my mind. You let me believe that was you. His eyes, those familiar hazel eyes, darted away. He ran a hand over his mouth, a nervous gesture I knew well. Who's been filling your head with this crap? Ben. He's jealous, Sophia. He's trying to mess with you, to rewrite history because he can't stand that you chose me. I never chose you, Alex. The words tore out of me loud in the quiet apartment. You were never a choice. You were a monument I built around a lie. Did you even correct me? When I grabbed your hand in that hospital and cried and called you my hero, did you ever once say, "It wasn't me, Sophia"? His face was pale now. He crossed his arms, a defensive posture. It was a chaotic time. You were traumatized. You were clinging to a story that helped you cope. Who was I to take that away from you? The breathtaking arrogance of it stole my breath. To take it away from me? You stole it. You stole it from him. You saw your opportunity and you took it. Was it worth it? Were my 7 years of pathetic devotion a good enough prize for your little theft? It wasn't like that, he snapped, his own anger rising to meet mine. You have no idea what that was like. Everyone was a mess. He was out of it. Concussed. They shipped him off. You were asking for someone and I was there. I was there for you after. I held your hand through all of it, through your physical therapy, through Mark's funeral, through everything. Doesn't that count for something? It counts as friendship, Alex. Best. It doesn't count as building an entire identity as my savior. You didn't save me. He did. The he hung between us, enormous and undeniable. Alex's jaw worked. He looked cornered, and a cornered Alex was a spiteful one. Oh, so now it's St. Ben? The silent, suffering martyr? Did he tell you he loved you back then? That he was going to confess to you the day of the earthquake? That he'd been carrying a torch for you since like freshman year? The new information hit me like a physical blow. Ben had loved me. I fought to keep my expression impassive, not to give Alex the satisfaction of my shock. He saw it anyway. A bitter smile twisted his lips. Yeah. He never said a word, did he? Too noble. Or too scared. I went to see him in the hospital after they stabilized him. He was all bandaged up, out of his mind on painkillers, and he kept asking about you. Is Sophia out? Is she okay? Alex's impersonation of Ben was cruel, mocking. I told him you were fine. That you were asking for me. And you know what he said? Nothing. He just turned his head to the wall. My heart cracked for that boy, bandaged and alone, hearing that lie. I told him, Alex continued, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper, that if you knew it was him under that rubble, you'd be so grateful you'd probably feel obligated to be with him. I asked him if that's what he wanted. Pity from you. Charity. He shook his head. He was always so proud. He couldn't stand the thought. So he never said a word. He let you have your hero. He let you have me. The full, ugly picture was complete. It wasn't just Alex's sin. It was a collusion of silence. Ben, in his wounded pride and misguided nobility, had handed me over on a platter. And Alex had feasted on my devotion for 7 years. The rage in me cooled, hardening into something permanent and disdainful. I looked at Alex, really looked at him, and saw not the golden boy of my youth, but a small, pathetic man who had built his kingdom on a stolen foundation. You're a coward, I said, my voice now eerily calm. And you're a liar. And the worst part is, you've always known you didn't deserve what I gave you. That's why you could never really love me back. You were always waiting for me to figure out I was worshipping a fake god. He flinched as if I'd struck him. All the bluster left him. He just looked empty. Sophia. Don't. I took a step back toward the door. We're done. The friendship, the history, all of it. It was built on quicksand. Consider this the sinkhole. I turned and walked out, closing the door softly on the ruins of my past. I didn't go to Ben immediately. I needed to walk to let the cold rain cleanse the toxicity of that conversation from my skin. The revelation swirled inside me, not just Alex's betrayal but Ben's long, silent burden. He had loved me. He had saved me. And he had let me go believing it was for my own good. It explained everything. The depth of his gaze. The sadness behind his intensity. The way he'd said, "This time I'm not letting go." By the time I showed up at his building I was drenched and shivering but my mind was crystal clear. He must have seen me on the security camera because the lobby door buzzed open before I could ring. He was waiting in his open doorway, his face etched with concern. "Sophia? Jesus, you're soaked." He pulled me inside, his hands warm on my icy arms. "What happened? Are you hurt?" I looked up at him, rainwater dripping from my hair, my clothes clinging to me. "It was you," I said, my teeth chattering. "In the rubble. It was your hand." All the color drained from his face. His hands fell from my arms. He took a half step back as if the words had physical force. For a long moment he just stared at me, his gray eyes wide with a panic I'd never seen in him. The unflappable Ben Collins was utterly shaken. "Alex told you," he finally said, the words barely a breath. "Parts of it. I figured out the rest." I stepped toward him. "Why, Ben? Why would you never tell me?" He turned away, running a hand through his dark hair, a gesture of pure agitation. "It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was the single most defining moment of my life. It shaped everything that came after." "That's exactly why," he exploded, whirling back to face me. The raw pain in his expression was breathtaking. "It would have shaped everything. I didn't want to be your defining moment, Sophia. I didn't want to be the trauma you felt grateful for. I didn't want your love to be a debt you felt you had to repay." His words echoed Alex's taunt in the hospital, but from Ben they weren't manipulative. They were a terrified, principled conviction. "So you just gave me to him?" My voice broke. "I didn't give you." He closed his eyes, struggling for control. When he opened them they were bleak. "You woke up and you looked at him like he'd hung the moon. You were alive and you were happy and the story you'd built in your head gave you comfort. Who was I to smash that? To say, actually it was me, the quiet guy you've never really noticed and now you owe me?" He shook his head, a miserable, defeated motion. "I couldn't do it. I loved you too much to turn my love into your obligation." The sheer, staggering selflessness of it hollowed me out. All those years he'd carried the truth and the weight of his own feelings, watching me orbit the wrong star. "You loved me," I whispered. He let out a shaky breath, a sound close to a sob. "Since the first day of freshman year when you argued with the physics teacher about the practical application of a theorem. You were so passionate, so bright. And you had no idea how brilliant you were." He took a tentative step toward me. "And then, in that darkness with the world fallen apart, holding your hand was the only thing that made sense. I was so scared, Sophia. For me, for you. Talking to you, feeling your grip. It kept me sane too." Tears, hot and sudden, mingled with the rainwater on my face. "All this time. I went away," he said, his voice thick. "To college overseas. I thought if I put an ocean between us I could forget. I could let you live your life with him. But I couldn't. I'd come back and ask about you and the answer was always the same. She's still hung up on Alex." He reached out, his fingers gently brushing a wet strand of hair from my cheek. "And then I saw that picture Chloe posted. And I heard you were trying to move on. And I couldn't stay away any longer. The thought of you with some stranger when I had loved you for so long." He broke off, the confession hanging in the air between us, immense and fragile. I closed the distance between us. I placed my palms against his chest, feeling the frantic beat of his heart. "You are the least selfish person I have ever known," I said, my voice trembling. "And you are an idiot." A choked laugh escaped him. "I know. I'm not with you out of gratitude, Ben. I'm with you because when you kissed me in that hallway, it was the first time in 7 years my heart felt like it was beating in the right rhythm. I'm with you because you see me, the real me, not the saintly monument I built for Alex. You don't have to compete with a ghost anymore. The ghost was you all along." The last of the tension drained from his body. He pulled me into a crushing embrace, his face buried in my wet hair. I could feel him trembling. "I'm sorry," he mumbled against my skin. "I'm so sorry I didn't tell you. I'm sorry it took me so long to see you," I whispered back. We stood like that for a long time in the quiet foyer of his apartment, the past finally acknowledged, the truth finally setting us free. Later, wrapped in one of his soft sweaters and sitting on his couch with a mug of tea between my hands, I looked at him. So what now? He was sitting close, his arm around my shoulders, his thumb tracing idle patterns on my arm. Now, he said, his voice regaining its usual quiet steadiness, we live in the present. No more ghosts. And Alex. Ben's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. That's up to you. But he doesn't get to be a part of our story anymore. Our story. The words sent a warm thrill through me. A week later, the final piece of the past arrived in the mail. A small, unmarked package. Inside, nestled in bubble wrap, was the little ceramic Sophia figurine. There was no note. But tucked inside the jar she held was not the colorful paper stars I'd originally filled it with, but a single old glass vial. With careful fingers I pulled out the tiny rolled parchment inside. In Alex's familiar, slashing handwriting it read, Sophia, the forgiveness coupon you left in here once said, unconditional. I know I ran out of conditions years ago. The name on the smudged hospital form was Collins. I've known since the day I visited him. I'm sorry is the most useless phrase in the English language, so I won't insult you with it. Just know that the boy in the rubble deserved you all along. I showed it to Ben. He read it, his expression unreadable, then carefully took the scroll, struck a match and set it alight in a ceramic bowl. We watched the flames consume the apology, the confession, turning it to black, fragile ash. No more ghosts, he repeated softly, pulling me close. And for the first time I believed they were really gone. The burning of Alex's note felt like a ceremonial end. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed us to stop curating it. Ben and I entered a new phase, one not defined by the shadow of what came before. We were simply us. It was terrifying and wonderful in its normalcy. We met each other's friends. His from the tech world and his graduate program, sharp and curious people who asked me thoughtful questions and listened to my answers. I introduced him to my family. My mother, after an initial period of wide-eyed shock. The Ben Collins? The genius from your high school? Honey, you've been holding out. Took to him immediately, charmed by his quiet manners and the way he helped clear the table without being asked. We began tentatively discussing a future, not with grand dramatic gestures, but with quiet, practical plans. He mentioned his lease was up in 6 months. I talked about how my apartment's heating system was temperamental. We were two planets, their orbits slowly, inevitably synchronizing. Meanwhile, Alex's life, as viewed from the distant shore I now stood on, seemed to accelerate into a parody of moving on. Within a month he was officially dating Leah, the woman from his apartment. 2 months after that, rumors swirled of a ring being shopped for. The news came to me through Chloe, who delivered it with the caution of a bomb disposal expert. He's going to propose to Leah. At the Founders Gala next weekend. He's rented out the entire rooftop garden, hired a string quartet, the whole 9 yards. I was at Ben's attempting to make pancakes that didn't resemble charcoal briquettes. I paused, spatula in hand. Okay, I said, focusing on flipping a pancake. It landed with a soft plop, mostly intact. A small victory. Okay. Chloe's voice was incredulous through the speakerphone. That's all you've got? Sophia, this is the guy you pined for 7 years. He's proposing to someone else. In like a spectacular public way he never did for you. But he never wanted to do it for me, Chloe, I said, my voice calm. I realized with a start that it was true. This isn't a loss. It's just news. I hope he's happy. And I found to my surprise that I mostly meant it. The hatred had cooled into a distant pity. Ben, who was reading at the kitchen table, looked up over the top of his tablet. His expression was carefully neutral, but I saw the slight tension in his shoulders. After I hung up with Chloe, he spoke. Are you really okay? I brought 2 plates of semi-successful pancakes to the table. Yeah, think I am. It feels like hearing about the marriage of a distant cousin I haven't seen in years. It doesn't have anything to do with me. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded, accepting my answer. But the tension didn't leave him. The night of the Founders Gala, Ben and I had our own plans. Dinner with his mentor, Dr. Abrams, and his wife. It was a formal, important step. I wore a simple, elegant emerald green dress. Ben in a tailored navy suit, looked at me with such open, fierce pride it made my breath catch. "You look," he said, his voice husky as he fastened a delicate necklace around my throat, "like everything I ever wanted and never dared to hope for." The dinner was at an intimate old-world Italian restaurant. Dr. Abrams was a lively man in his 60s with a sharp mind and a kind heart. His wife, Elena, was an artist. They were lovely and they clearly adored Ben. The conversation flowed easily from tech ethics to Renaissance art to the best gelato in the city. For 2 hours I forgot about Alex, about proposals, about the past. I was just Sophia Russo, having dinner with her brilliant boyfriend and his lovely friends. It was during dessert that my phone, buried in my clutch, began to vibrate incessantly. Then Ben's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, his brow furrowing. He silenced it. A minute later it buzzed again. And again. Dr. Abrams chuckled. "The perils of the modern age. The world is desperate for you, Benjamin." Ben gave an apologetic smile. "I'm so sorry. 1 second." He picked up the phone, his expression turning from polite apology to stark confusion as he read the messages flooding in. He looked up at me, his eyes wide. "Sophia," he said quietly. "It's about Alex. At the gala." My stomach dipped. "What happened? Is he okay?" Ben's gaze was inscrutable. "He's fine. Physically. But there's no proposal. Caused a scene. A big one." Dr. Abrams, sensing the shift, waved a hand. "Go take care of what you need to. We're just finishing our wine." Ben pulled out his wallet, but Dr. Abrams stopped him. "Our treat. Go." In the hushed silence of the restaurant's foyer, Ben showed me his phone. There were messages from John, from other guys in their group, and a blurry, chaotic video someone had posted to a group chat. It showed the beautiful rooftop garden, a string quartet frozen mid-song, and in the center, a flipped-over table, a ruined multi-tiered cake splattered on the floor, and Alex, his tuxedo jacket gone, tie askew, standing in the middle of the wreckage with a shattered, lost expression. Leah was nowhere in be seen. "John, dude lost it. Completely." Leah left in tears. Another friend, he kept looking at the door. Like he was waiting for someone. The last text was from John, sent directly to Ben. "He keeps saying her name. Sophia's name. I think you need to get her out of the city for the weekend." A cold dread, entirely separate from any old feeling for Alex, trickled down my spine. This wasn't about love. This was the tantrum of a man who'd lost his favorite toy. Ben's voice was low and urgent. "Get your coat. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "Away. Now." He didn't drive to my apartment or his. He drove out of the city, across the bridge, into the quieter, tree-lined suburbs where his parents lived. They were away on a long-planned cruise, he explained, but he had the keys to their house. The house was a beautiful, comfortable colonial, dark and quiet. Ben led me inside, turning on lights. "We'll stay here tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Until this blows over." "Ben, this is crazy. We can't hide from him." "I'm not hiding," he said, his voice tight. He stopped in the spacious, moonlit living room and faced me. "I'm removing you from the blast radius. That spectacle back there? That wasn't for Leah. That was for you. It was a fucking summons. A dramatic public breakdown to prove he's still the center of your universe. Well, he's not." He took a deep, shaky breath, running his hands through his hair. "I won't let him pull you back into his drama. Not again." The protectiveness in his voice, the raw fear that Alex's chaos could somehow reach me even now, broke my heart. I went to him, wrapping my arms around his waist, pressing my cheek against his chest. "He can't pull me back. I'm anchored. Right here." He held me tightly, his face in my hair. We stood like that for a long time in the silent, unfamiliar house. Later we sat in the large kitchen drinking tea. The night's events hung between us. "What do you think happened?" I asked quietly. Ben sighed, staring into his mug. "I think he finally believed you were gone. And I think the grand gesture of proposing to someone else was supposed to be the final triumphant proof to himself that he'd moved on. But when the moment came, all he could see was the door waiting for you to burst in and stop him. And you didn't." He looked at me. "You were here with me, having a lovely, normal dinner. Living your life." He couldn't stand it. It made a terrible sense. Alex's entire identity had been built on being the sought-after one. My unwavering devotion was a cornerstone. With it gone, the structure was unstable. My phone, which I'd kept off, felt like a live grenade in my purse. I didn't turn it on. We slept in Ben's old childhood bedroom in a twin bed that was far too small for the two of us, forcing us to curl tightly together. It felt oddly fitting, a return to the past but together on our own terms. In the morning, Ben made pancakes in his mother's kitchen, far more successfully than I had. Sunlight streamed through the bay window. Felt like a different world. It was there amid the smell of coffee and maple syrup, with him wearing an old high school t-shirt and a pair of his dad's sweatpants, that he asked me. He wasn't on one knee. He was just standing by the stove, spatula in hand. He looked nervous, his gray eyes serious. "Sophia," he said. "Marry me." It wasn't a question. It was a quiet, solemn statement. A declaration of intent. I was so surprised I nearly dropped my orange juice. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, setting the spatula down. "Not because of a dramatic scene or to spite anyone or because it's the next logical step. Marry me because the thought of you being my wife makes the future look like the only place I ever want to be. Marry me because I have loved you through every version of you I've ever known, and I want to know all the ones to come." Tears sprang to my eyes. This was the opposite of a rooftop spectacle. This was a private, profound offering in a sunlit kitchen. I started, but he held up a hand. "Don't answer now. Just think about it. We don't have to tell anyone. We can just know." He went back to flipping pancakes as if he hadn't just quietly upended my universe in the most beautiful way possible. I did think about it. All that day as we walked through his old neighborhood, as we raided his parents' board game closet. I thought about the steady, sure foundation of him. I thought about the boy in the rubble and the man in the kitchen, both of them mine. That evening, as we sat on the back porch swing watching fireflies, I gave him my answer. I didn't say anything. I just took his left hand in mine and slowly, deliberately, slid my own promise ring, a simple silver band he'd given me just the month before, onto his ring finger. It was a ridiculously tight fit, stopping at his knuckle. He looked down at our hands, then up at me, his eyes shimmering in the twilight. "Is that a yes?" he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "It's a let's go get a license," I whispered back. The smile that broke across his face was pure, unguarded joy. He kissed me and it tasted like promise and home and a future we were choosing completely for ourselves. We drove back to the city the next day, a secret humming between us. We didn't go to a jeweler. We went straight to the county clerk's office. It felt right. A deliberate, unromantic, practical step that was, for us, the most romantic thing imaginable. We were building our life on paperwork and quiet certainty, not fairy tales and forced drama. As we walked out holding our marriage license, the late afternoon sun glinting off the official seal, my finally powered-on phone buzzed. A single text from Alex. "Alex, I heard you left the city with him. I guess that's your answer." I showed it to Ben. He read it, then took my phone, typed a single character and handed it back. On the screen in the reply box was just, "Me." He had read the receipt. That was all he would get. Ben took my hand, the one that would soon wear a wedding band. "No more ghosts," he said for the third time, and this time it was a vow. We walked into our future, leaving the ruins of the past firmly behind us. The marriage license in my desk drawer felt less like a piece of paper and more like a settled fact, a truth we carried between us. We didn't set a date. We didn't plan a ceremony. For now, it was our secret, a quiet, unshakable understanding that colored every look, every touch. The future had arrived and we were already living in it. Life developed a new, deeper rhythm. Ben started spending most nights at my apartment, his toothbrush and his favorite coffee mug claiming permanent space. We bickered over closet space and whose turn it was to take out the recycling. We fell asleep on the couch watching documentaries. It was profoundly, wonderfully ordinary. Alex, true to form, did not fade quietly. His public meltdown had been gossiped about and dissected, leaving a stain on his golden boy image. The word unstable was whispered. Leah, understandably, was gone. He responded by doubling down on a persona of careless bachelorhood, posting pictures of late nights out with unfamiliar faces. But the smile never reached his eyes. Our mutual friends reported he was acting weird and obsessively asking about you, Sophia. One afternoon, a week after we got the license, a padded envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was the little ceramic Sophia figurine. This time the jar in her hands was empty. No note. It was just a return of property. A surrender. It felt more final than any dramatic confrontation. I brought it home and set it on the bookshelf. Ben eyed it warily that evening. "Do you want to keep it?" he asked, his tone carefully neutral. I looked at the cheerful, clumsy figure. It was a relic from a girl I no longer was. "I think I do," I said. "Not for him. For her. To remember how far she's come." Ben nodded, accepting this. He came to stand behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder as we both looked at it. "Just so she knows her place is on the shelf," he murmured, his lips brushing my ear. "Not on a pedestal." I leaned back into him, laughing. Noted. The figurine's arrival seemed to signal the true end of Alex's campaign. The text stopped. The questions through friends ceased. It was as if he had finally exhausted every possible thread connecting us and found them all severed. A month later, on a crisp Saturday morning that smelled of autumn and possibility, Ben and I drove back to the county clerk's office. We wore nice clothes, but not wedding clothes. I wore a simple cream-colored dress. He wore the navy suit from our dinner with Dr. Abrams. We had asked Chloe and Ben's friend David, a soft-spoken fellow programmer, to be our witnesses. They were the only people who knew. The ceremony was, as these things are, both breathtakingly significant and disarmingly bureaucratic. We stood in a small, sunny room with wood-paneled walls. A jovial officiant with a kind face read the standard words. When he asked, "Do you take this man?" My "I do" was a clear, steady bell tone in the quiet room. Ben's "I do" was a low, fervent vow, his eyes never leaving mine. We exchanged rings, simple platinum bands we'd chosen together the weekend before. Ben slid mine onto my finger and the metal was cool then warm. It felt less like an addition and more like a completion, as if a circle I'd been straining toward had finally closed. We signed the certificate. Sophia Russo. Benjamin Collins. Our names bound in clean black ink. And that was it. We were married. We went for lunch at a small French bistro, the four of us. Chloe cried happy tears into her champagne. David gave a surprisingly eloquent toast about quiet love being the strongest kind. We laughed, we ate, we existed in a perfect private bubble of joy. That bubble, however, couldn't stay private forever. We were legally married. Taxes, insurance, life, it would all require telling people. We decided to start with our families that weekend. But the universe, it seemed, had its own timeline. The evening after our wedding, we were at my apartment. The domestic peace of the place had deepened. Ben's books were on my shelves. Our laundry was mixed in the same hamper. We were ordering takeout, debating Thai versus Mexican when my intercom buzzed. I frowned, not expecting anyone. I walked to the panel. "Yes. Sophia. It's Alex." His voice was clear, sober, and utterly drained of its usual performative energy. He just sounded tired. My blood ran cold. I looked at Ben, who had gone very still on the couch, his phone forgotten in his hand. "I'm not letting him up," I said, my voice low. Ben stood. "Tell him to wait. I'll go down." "No. I'll handle it." I pressed the talk button. "I'll be right down." Ben's jaw tightened, but he didn't stop me. "I'll be right here," he said, a promise and a warning. I grabbed a cardigan and rode the elevator down, my new wedding band feeling suddenly heavy and conspicuous on my finger. I wouldn't hide it. He was standing in the lobby looking thinner, older. The charming carelessness was gone, replaced by a hollowed-out weariness. He held a small gift-wrapped box. "You look good," he said, his voice raspy. "What do you want, Alex?" He flinched at my tone. He held out the box. "I was cleaning out some old boxes at my mom's. Found this. It belongs to you. Shli. I think it always did." I didn't take it. "What is it?" "Just take it. Please. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm leaving, Sophia. Taking a job on the West Coast. I think I need to be somewhere that doesn't have so many ghosts." The news surprised me. A part of me, the old part, wondered if this was another dramatic gesture. But his eyes held a flat, exhausted sincerity I'd never seen before. Cautiously I took the small box. It was light. "Open it," he said. "I think you should." With uneasy fingers, I untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Nestled inside wasn't the figurine but something else. A small old-fashioned glass vial with a cork stopper, the kind that might hold perfume. And tucked beside it, a single folded square of faded pink stationery. My breath hitched. I knew that paper. I'd bought a pack of it in 10th grade. I set the box on the lobby's small side table and with trembling hands picked up the vial. I pulled the cork. Inside was a tiny, tightly rolled scroll. I tipped it into my palm, my heart hammering against my ribs. I unrolled it. The handwriting was my own, teenage and loopy. Forgiveness coupon. Good for 1-1. Unconditional forgiveness of Alex Morgan. Redeemable by bearer, Alex. Within 3 days of a major screw-up. No questions asked. Sophia. P.S. Seriously, unconditional. Don't be a jerk. I stared at the words. I had completely forgotten writing this. I must have tucked it into the figurines jar during our brief dating period. A silly, heartfelt offering from a girl who loved him so completely she'd built a loophole for his failures. Tears blurred the careful script. Not for him. For her. For that girl who thought love was endless forgiveness with a 3-day expiry date. I found it in the jar, Alex said quietly, watching me. After you came that last time. I'd never opened it before. I guess I didn't think there was anything in there worth finding. He swallowed hard. The unconditional, you underlined it 3 times. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the coupon, a relic of a love that had been both boundless and foolish. I'm past the expiration date, he said, a sad ghost of a smile touching his lips. By years. I know that. I'm not cashing it in. I just wanted you to have it back. So you know it was real. What you felt. It wasn't all just a lie you told yourself. It was real and it was something I didn't know how to hold. He was giving me back my own love. Acknowledging its existence, its value for the first time. I carefully re-rolled the scroll and placed it back in the vial. Thank you, I whispered, the words thick. He nodded, looking relieved as if a burden had been passed. His eyes dropped to my left hand resting on the table. They fixed on the platinum band. His gaze flew to my face, shock and then a profound, staggering understanding dawning in his eyes. He didn't ask. He just knew. A myriad of emotions crossed his face. Pain, regret, a final, crushing defeat, and then strangely a flicker of peace. He was always the better man, Alex said, his voice barely audible. Even when we were kids. I knew it. I think that's why he trailed off, shaking his head. It doesn't matter. Tell him I'm sorry. For all of it. You can tell him yourself, I said, but he was already turning away. No, he said, looking back once. I don't think I can. And he walked out of the lobby, out of my life for what I knew with a deep and certain finality, was the last time. I stood there for a long moment holding the box with the vial and the pink coupon. Then I took the elevator back up. Ben was waiting right where I'd left him, but he was on his feet, tense as a wire. What happened? Are you okay? I walked to him and held out the box. He brought me this. And he's leaving. For good. Ben's eyes scanned my face, looking for hurt, for hesitation. He saw only a quiet sadness. He took the box, opened it and examined the vial. He pulled out the scroll, unrolled it and read it. His expression softened, then grew pained. Oh, Sophia, he breathed. He looked at me. This is a lifetime ago, I finished for him. I took the scroll from his hand, walked to the kitchen and lit a burner on the stove. I held the edge of the pink paper to the blue flame. We watched as my teenage vow, my unconditional forgiveness, curled, blackened, and turned to ash in the stainless steel sink. No more ghosts, I said, turning off the burner. Ben pulled me into his arms, holding me as if I were something precious and fragile. I love you, he said into my hair. My wife. The word sent a thrill through me. I love you, my husband. Later, in the deep quiet of our bedroom, a new thought occurred to me. I propped myself up on an elbow. Ben, half asleep, opened one eye. What is it? The figurine, I said. The one he sent back. The jar was empty. But when he gave me the original years ago, it was full of paper stars. Dozens of them. Ben was fully awake now, understanding dawning. You think? I think he finally opened it. All of it. The next morning, while Ben made coffee, I went to the bookshelf and picked up The Ceramic Girl. I looked into the jar she cradled. But on a whim, I tilted it upside down and shook it. Something small and hard rattled loose, falling with a soft tink onto the shelf. Not a paper star. A tiny, delicate silver key. The kind that might open a diary or a small jewelry box. Ben came over holding 2 mugs. What's that? I don't know. I picked up the key. It was cool and light. It wasn't from me. A mystery. One final silent message from the past. But unlike the others, this one held no pain, no obligation. It was just a key. To a lock we would never find, to a door we no longer needed to open. I looked at Ben, then at the key in my palm. I walked to the window, opened it, and drew my arm back. Sophia, wait, Ben said, but his voice held no real objection. I didn't throw it. I closed my hand around it, feeling its tiny teeth press into my skin. Then I closed the window. No, I said, turning back to him. I think I'll keep it. As a reminder. Of what? That some doors are meant to stay closed. And that the only key I need, I said, walking to him and taking my coffee mug, is the one to this apartment. With you in it. He smiled, that slow, deep smile that was mine alone. He clinked his mug against mine. To close doors, he said. And open futures, I replied. We drank our coffee in the morning sun, in the first quiet days of our forever, the past finally, completely at rest. A book. The key sits on my dresser next to my perfume bottles. A curious artifact. I never found what it opens and I stopped trying. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. Alex moved to Seattle. We see the occasional social media post. Hiking, a new job, a vague picture with a woman who seems nice. I wish him well, the way you wish well for a character in a book you finished long ago. Ben and I told our families. There was surprise, tears, and ultimately joy. We had a small, real wedding in my parents' backyard 6 months later, surrounded by the people who truly mattered. Chloe cried even harder the second time. Ben's mother hugged me and whispered, "He's been waiting for you his whole life. I'm so glad you finally found each other." We bought a house with a big kitchen and a garden where Ben is trying and mostly failing to grow tomatoes. I'm writing again, something I hadn't done in years. He reads every word. Sometimes in the deep of night I'll wake up and feel his arm around me, solid and sure. I'll listen to his steady breathing, feel the cool metal of my wedding band against my skin, and I'll think of the girl in the rubble, terrified and alone, holding onto a hand in the darkness. I'll think, you made it. You held on. And he never let go. Then I'll turn over, curl into the warmth of my husband, my savior, my love, my Ben, and drift back to sleep, safe in the knowledge that every scar, every tear, every wrong turn led me here. To this. To him. To us. The end.